okay, it's game on. Everything is going to change because of drones.
Brand new directives from the Department of Defense are stripping away the red tape for drone manufacturers.
That trickle-down effect happens very quickly.
There are huge moves happening. Your stock almost doubling this week.
This is a fraction of what's going to happen.
Cameron Chell with Draganfly Drones, North America's longest-standing drone manufacturer, says the contracts are already rolling in, and not just from the Department of Defense.
We have seen in the last week a significant increase in inbound inquiries.
He'll share just how much of an impact this new directive will have on the entire drone industry and where investors can look for more explosive growth opportunities. Let's dive in. Cameron, so great to have you back on the show in what is a huge week for the drone sector. Brand new directive from the Department of Defense that's really making it easier for drone manufacturers in the U.S., kind of cutting out the red tape and all the processes it's taken to get to manufacturing. It's part of the president's executive order about making the U.S. really a dominant player in drones, looking for drone dominance across the globe. It's a big deal for the sector. I know you're an expert. You've been in this industry for more than 25 years. Talk about just how much of an impact this new directive is going to have on really the entire drone industry.
Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been a while coming, and certainly the movers in this space through this drone cycle have been working. All of us have been working really hard to push this agenda, to put our national defense and security in a position to be competitive, and to not just from a commercial standpoint, but from an overall national security standpoint. And we really welcome what's now unfolding. And what's really great about this is it's a very bottom up push. It's the folks that are in the field that are needing these requirements. So if we think about the work that we've been doing in Ukraine since 22, how that's translated to the work that we're doing with our warfighters in the field now, and the requirements that are being pushed up the chain to say, this is what we need to do. And so there was a whole set of requirements and processes that were just slowing everything down. And it's just such an imperative right now to get the United States and the NATO countries up to speed and in a competitive warfighting position that this mandate has come down. And it's the whole industry is just saying, hey, this is a different way of doing business, and it seems to be welcome by everybody that's in this scenario right now, in particular the warfighter.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more. You've already hinted towards it, but that a big announcement of the big Department of Defense directive to kind of cut the red tape when it comes to drone manufacturing across the U.S. It's part of the President Trump's executive order to get the country into a level of drone dominance. And that's why we're seeing more investment, but now also making it easier to manufacture drones. Talk about how big of an impact this is for the industry. How much will this change things?
Well, what this really does is it removes the barriers for the North American manufacturer to actually produce a product that can be competitive on a world stage. We've been hamstrung for, frankly, decades by policy that wasn't put in for any other for any poor reason, but nonetheless was in place and completely hamstrung the industry, which now is translated to hamstring our military and our national defense. So removing this red tape in the thoughtful manner that it's being done helps ensure that we've got that competitive standpoint. Now, it should be noted that a lot of, I'm going to start a drone company, or I'm going to, like, that's not what this is not haphazard. There's still very stringent requirements, very stringent, what they call TR level expectations, to be able to make sure that the product can be produced at a lower cost and at volume, but it is still the best product out there. And I mean, that's the position that U.S. is used to being in as a manufacturing powerhouse. And that's the position that is now been made available for the drone industry to do. And I think you're going to see not just the dominance in terms of volume and size, but also in terms of capabilities and innovation.
Yeah, we had a really great conversation last month on the importance of drones in warfare and why we're already starting to see so much more investment into drones. If you missed that video, I have that in the description here so you can go back and watch it, because it really lays a good foundation for a discussion of why drones are becoming so much more prevalent, why there's so much investment happening happening in the US and in other countries too into drones when it comes to really beefing up their defense spending. And so that's what we're seeing right now is more defense spending and specifically more defense spending in drones. In our last video, Cameron, you talked about those contracts are probably just weeks away from being announced, and we have already started to see that. The spending announcement is very recent, and yet we're already starting to see new contracts coming out.
Yeah, well, I think, the understanding there is that, that announcement didn't come out and then they awarded contracts. Those contracts have been worked on, by the current relevant partners, of which Draganfly is one of them, for years. We've been proving our capabilities, we've been putting them through frontline trials and tests and, in various parts of the world. And so we've made it through that selection process. And so it's coincided with these announcements, but it also now speeds up the pace at which I believe those established players out there, Dragonfly included, will be, hopefully awarded contracts, being able to innovate, come up with great products, work with the warfighter, and such. And so it does provide a great stepping stone for newer entrants, but it really provides a platform for the existing companies that have been at it for quite some time that aren't the big, massive primes out there. It can be nimble and can really execute for the Department of Defense, all of their different branches. I do think it should also be noted that that trickle down effect happens very quickly into the commercial market as well. So we have seen in the last week a significant increase in inbound inquiries from commercial players, whether they be utility companies or environmental companies or agricultural companies, going, okay, it's game on. We now have confidence that the US manufacturing base is going to be able to support a long-term drone industry. We're not going to have to rely back on the Chinese or the Indonesian type of manufacturers, and so we have confidence to be moving forward. So that to me has been a very unexpected and beneficial to the industry. So and then again, it's everything. It's one thing builds on the nether and builds on the next and builds on the next. So I think the entire U.S. basin, the North American basin, over the next 5 to 7 years, will become the dominant innovator and supplier of drones and technology in this area.
That's so interesting to hear, Cameron, that you have a new contract announcement announced with the Department of Defense, and that instantly leads to more inquiries from other potential customers. That's exciting to see for your company and for investors too. And we are seeing a lot of that excitement level from investors in your company and in some of the other drone companies in the market right now, all seeing a huge boost this week. Make sure to check out those charts. We've got some of those up for you right now, but there are huge moves happening. Dragonfly, no exception. Your stock almost doubling this week. And so that just shows the kind of momentum people are expecting. Part of that big jump in your stock is a new announcement just this week. Why don't you go into the details of that contract that you have that, again, you've been working on for quite some time?
When you deal in particular with departments of defense, whether it's the DoD, the MOD, the in the UK or the DND in Canada or other NATO partners, there often aren't a lot of details that you can put into those announcements. You've got a material responsibility to announce, but they're also strategic. As well, and so there's a sensitivity line that you have to walk there. I think the most important thing to note in there is that those contracts are being awarded to people that have been through a very rigorous testing process. Very fortunately, and we're very grateful for it, to not just to the DoD, but also to our partners and our employees, is the fact that we meet the standard. We've got not just the technical capability, but we also have the scalability in order to meet this. So one of the things that's really been apparent over the last number of years is not just your ability to produce a great product that can operate under extreme situations, but when they need 10,000 of them or they need 100,000 of them of whatever size, can you produce? So we've gone through rigorous audits with these organizations, site visits, clearances, capacity testing, manufacturing testing. Like that's the stuff that's really taken the time to get there. So when you see an announcement like this, whether it's from us or from somebody else, the significance of it isn't just about the size of that particular contract, because this whole space is it's taken it's taken 5 times as long as anybody that's we've been at this for 25 years. So it's taken 5 times as long as anybody expected or hoped. The flip side of that, just like the internet, it's going to be 100 times bigger, 100 times plus bigger. That nothing collects better data than a drone, nothing delivers something better than a drone. Nothing can communicate better than a drone in a real physical world. It is the perfect combination and culmination of AI and the physical world coming together. This is a massive, massive industry. And so when you see these announcements by organizations as credible as this, selecting particular partners like a Dragonfly, and there are other great ones out there too. Then what happens is okay that that those are the winners, and the market size is well beyond what we can comprehend at this moment.
So many follow-up questions because there's so much ground to cover in this sector because, like you said, there is so much excitement happening, and we expect a lot of growth here. So I think I want to start with for investors who are looking at this, you're seeing a huge week for your company, for several other drone stocks out there. Is it still early if you want to get in as an investor? Is this big jump we saw this week maybe just a reaction to the news, or do you think that this is just the beginning with a lot more to come down the road?
I'm not a trader. Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm a builder, and when I am able to invest, I don't think in terms of quarters or even a year or two. So if we're thinking about that type of time frame, this is a fraction of what's going to happen. I mean, even with the jump that we've had this week, I mean, we're still less than $100 million market capitalization. This is for a company that's probably one of 3 to 5 companies that will be positioned in what's close to $1 trillion industry, yeah, just in defense over the next 5 years. So I think the upside is certainly not unlimited, but it's as close to unlimited as you could imagine. Is there a short-term trade in it? I absolutely think there is, but I think there's little downside in any trade in a qualified company that's demonstrated the ability to deliver to that type of customer right now.
Yeah, some really interesting names. We've been talking about defense on this channel a lot, so we brought up some different names. We've also talked about some of the larger defense companies, and one of the questions I'd love to have you talk about is, you are a very small but niche drone company out there, and there's other drone companies that are making different, very specific drones. What's your take on whether these Department of Defense contracts are going to go to some of the smaller companies that are really specialized, really working on advancements in their very narrow lane? Versus some of the larger defense names who might have a drone department as a small portion of the really big companies that they are. Do you see there being a mix of contracts going to both? What's your take on that?
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, we've done contract engineering for or a number of the big primes, for the last 20 years on their drone programs, and they're much larger programs. They also have a much higher level that they have to hit before a program can become interesting. So, them winning a $20 million contract is, I mean, they can't unlock the doors in the morning for a $20 million contract. So, they're letting us, kind of establish the ground rules and gain that experience and get the scars in the space. But what we do see now is those primes are actually directly buying our product, and I'm sure others as well, and then looking to incorporate it into their larger platforms. So if we think about things like very large MQ-9 type drones or Reaper type drones, which are 15 to $20 million units. They have ground crews of 30 people. Well, the concept of operations from those now is that they're going to be dropping drones, right? And the drones they're dropping are going to be from manufacturers like Draganfly, who specialize in what's known as the Category 1 and the Category 2 drones. Those Predators and those Reapers, those are all Category 3 drones and require massive investments and years of work and big program defense spending. So now what I do anticipate is that one of the advantages of Dragonfly, and not to take away from any other manufacturer out there, is that we're the only North American manufacturer, in fact, probably only 2 company drone manufacturers in the world have a product line that is as broad as ours. So we have everything that runs from, small FPV one-way drones, up to 4 or 5 drone sets in between or platforms in between that go up to a drone system that can stay aloft for a multi-rotor drone system that can stay aloft for 7 hours and can carry 100 kilograms. So, whether those drones are used for targeting or for ordnance or for delivery or forward operating base operations, you've got one platform that you're dealing with, one set of characteristics in terms of your flight operations and characteristics. And that's a real big advantage. So a lot of those larger manufacturers have what they call payloads. So specific types of cameras, it might be a FLIR camera, it might be a Sony camera, it might, has to be NDAA compliant, North American supply chain certified, I'll call it. And they need, and they don't necessarily go on one small surveillance drone that's made out there. It has to work in conjunction with teams of drones, and so that's a big advantage that a company like Draganfly, because we've got decades of experience, brings to the table, and that experience comes from being down on the ground working with our frontline warfighters or our law enforcement professionals and such. And so we bring a lot to the table for those larger organizations. So certainly for the near future, the next 5 years, these smaller companies will be very dominant in this space. Now, beyond 5 years, whether there's a big roll up or acquisitions or how the concept of operations change, there's many variables that could happen there. But it is now an ecosystem, and it has to be an ecosystem because the manufacturing base is such that everybody's going to have to work together in order to raise our level of drone dominance in the world.
It does seem like a big effort across the whole country as the whole industry kind of comes together to work on this. And I want to have you talk to you about just how much investment is happening. Is there room at the table for a lot of companies to see a lot of benefit right now who are all in the drone space simply because of the mass investment happening? The big beautiful bill is now officially passed. And what does that mean for how much investment could be coming over the next just a couple of years for the drone sector?
Yeah, there will be a mind-boggling amount of investment that will be made in my opinion, for the very simple reason that the ROI of using a drone compared to, say, traditional methods, because you get additional data, because it can feed AI data sets that today don't even exist, because it's a force multiplier. So instead of having to have 4-man teams or 5-man teams, now you can have a 2 or 3-man team or 2 or 3 2-man teams, with that drone capability, running point as an example, or running logistics or equipment back and forth, or those types of things. So the ROI is so great, and it's happening now. I mean, there's been 25 years of work to get to this point. But I think the other point to make is that it's daunting. You think, oh, hey, I can buy an airframe off the internet, and I can buy a kit. Now I got a drone. But that it is, when you're talking about mission critical work, you're putting something up in the air in a 3D space, especially if it's adversarial. You're talking about years of development for a new company to get into it. So in some respects, I do expect to see a concentration amongst the kind of 3 to 5 known players out there. There will be some other upstarts who are really talented and will do great. There will be some carnage down at the new entrance level, like there is in any market that finally starts taking off. But there is going to be a concentration. Yeah, I can tell you that from firsthand knowledge and being told that there's going to be a concentration on proven entities right now. So again, I think that's why we're very grateful to be in that position. But I think we are well positioned.
Well, 25 years of work definitely has a payoff eventually, and it seems to be coming right now. You have been in this industry for so long. I'm hoping you can share investment advice for our viewers out there who are the retail investors who are already maybe in these drone stocks. They saw our last video a month ago and have started loading up on some of these smaller drone companies. What are some adjacent companies that maybe are some of your suppliers or maybe are related to the field that you could also see getting a boost in the near future as this investment into drones really starts to take off?
Yeah, wow, what a great question. And if I was an investor, and I'm somewhat of an investor, but certainly innovative payload companies. So companies that can provide sensors or payloads, the things that attach to drones that that increase the capability of that drone, whether it's military or law enforcement or medical or commercial. Well, the reason that those companies haven't really taken off as new innovators in the past, because they've had to also become drone manufacturers, right? If they wanted to get their new LiDAR system or their new air sensor system or their new MC catcher system but up in the air, they had to manufacture the drone themselves because they didn't have a choice, or they had to put it on a Chinese drone, but they couldn't put it on a Chinese drone because it can't work in the restricted airspace. Now that that barrier is gone and you've got North American manufacturers that can provide the platform for those companies are going to start taking off. Now, the other advantage of those payload companies is that they typically will have a shorter time to market because most of the safety concerns are dealt with in the airframe, right? In that engineering and physics, where the payloads that are going on there that can provide incredible AI, incredible innovation, sensor, data capture capability, those types of things, if they've got a very reliable platform to land on, which again, I think Draganfly has positioned itself for payload providers out there, then all of a sudden they can get to market quite quickly. So if you've got innovative sensors, data collection capability, AI tied into it, and things like that, those potential companies or those companies potentially can do very well in a shorter time frame. Again, this is a plug for Draganfly. Provided they partner with a company that can actually provide the reliability of their sensor or their payload in the air. So I think that that to me, I'm always on the lookout for payload providers because a drone in many respects is a drone. Really, what people aren't buying drones; they're buying capabilities. And so, if you can provide additional capabilities to that drone, you've got a real opportunity.
Yeah, so much opportunity in this entire sector right now. And I think that's why we're seeing so many big stock moves right now. It's a lot to stay on top of, but you can track all of these stock moves for free when you sign up for our free text alert system by texting YouTube to 68285. That'll get you signed up for monitoring Dragonfly and other drone stocks, adding them to your watch list, and getting those alerts sent right to your phone through our free SMS stock alert system right now. Cameron, I wanted to wrap up with some of your final thoughts for our investors on just why we're seeing so much explosive growth in drones right now. How much of a change do you expect to see in this sector over the next few months and years?
I think border management's going to change very significantly here because of drones. I guess I just can't stress enough that everything is going to change because of drones. And it's not because it's a drone. It's because of what a drone can do. And a drone can do pretty much anything a plane can do. It can do pretty much anything that a camera can do. It's almost incomprehensible understanding the impact the internet had on our society, and that is the same impact that drones will have. So I think that looking for innovation is important, but looking for signature customers and who's winning the signature customers, regardless of the size of the contracts. It's not about the size of the contract yet. Right now, it's about the importance of that particular customer.
Very good information and a lot for investors to consider in this field. I know we are going to continue talking about it because I think this is just the beginning of the growth that we're starting to see in this sector. Thank you again for your time today, Cameron, and for sharing more of your expertise in the industry. We love having you on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for watching, everyone. Let us know your thoughts on the drone sector in the comments. Have you loaded up on any drone stocks yet? Got some Dragonfly for yourself? And are there any of these adjacent companies around the drone sector that you're also starting to look into too? We'd love to hear your stock ideas in the comments. Thanks for watching again, everyone. And as always, happy investing.